Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the second half of September and in particular the total lunar eclipse that we have coming up on the 27th and 28th of the month. But September in total is a very, very powerful month. It contains two eclipses because we've just had the solar eclipse in Virgo on the 13th of the month. And I mentioned in my last video how Chiron opposing the Sun and the Moon at that eclipse was making us acutely sensitive to any kind of suffering in the world. And Jupiter opposing Neptune is very much about compassion and wanting to be of spiritual service. And I think we've seen all of those themes really clearly in Europe over the last couple of weeks with the huge refugee and migrant problem which is occurring there. So the planetary manifestations have really been very, very clear. But before we get to the lunar eclipse that I'm going to be talking about, we have a lot of planetary action, even just in this second half of September. Several planets changing direction and or changing sign. Mercury goes retrograde, for instance, on the 17th of September. It goes retrograde at 15 degrees of Libra, and it stays retrograde until the 9th of October. And it doesn't come back over that 15 degrees of Libra degree point until the 24th of October. So through that period from the 17th of September all the way through, in fact, until the 24th of October, we may be rethinking, reevaluating, reviewing issues particularly to do with relationship because it's in Libra. And then from the 24th of October, we can then start to move ahead on our new thinking concerning those areas in our life. Then the next day, on the 18th, Saturn moves direct into Sagittarius. Now this is really about crystallizing our future visions, both for ourselves and for the world. And it's very much in line with the theme that Jupiter opposing Neptune is offering us, and that opposition is exact on the 16th of the month. But it will continue for some time. So this is a theme of wanting to move to a better reality, bigger and better possibilities, not only for ourselves and for the world. So there's really a strong theme there of what can we do to make this a better world. And I think we're seeing some really wonderfully positive things happening with that. Then on the 23rd of September, we have the autumn equinox. This is when the Sun moves into Libra. And when the Sun does that, it will be conjunct the North Node. And the North Node is very much connected to our collective destiny. So it really describes how we're moving forwards, and it's very much about relationship. Now at the equinox, the magnetic field of the Earth always falls. It drops quite considerably. And this means that it's easier for us to access information from a higher source. And indeed, sensitive people can get a lot of information psychically at times round about the autumn equinox. And it actually makes the lunar eclipse 4 days later even more powerful because the nodal axes are very strong points of magnetism, and when the lunar eclipse happens close to the equinox, when the magnetic field is falling anyway, it makes it extra powerful. But before we get to that lunar eclipse, we still have more planetary changes happening, because on the 25th of the month, Mars moves from Leo into Virgo, and the next day it squares Saturn. And in fact, those two planets actually form a T-square to Neptune. So part of that picture is about making real the dream. It's this very similar theme of wanting to have a better world. But what Saturn will tend to do as well is delay action or slightly block or frustrate action. So Mars is what you want to achieve, it's your goals, it's where you want to get to. And Saturn squaring it is just saying, just hang on a minute, just be patient. So just watch that over those 2 days, sort of 25th, 26th of the month, and see how that's manifesting in the world and in your life. Because at the same time, on the 25th, Pluto goes direct, goes stationary before it starts to move direct. Now, whenever a planet is stationary, its symbolism is magnified. So Pluto, it's all about power, control, manipulation. It's often about big governments, institutions controlling people. So that will be those few days round about the 25th, 26th will be fascinating to watch in the world, where a lot of assertion and a lot of power is being expressed, but there's some kind of block happening at the same time. Then on the 27th of the month, and this happens at 7:50 p.m. Pacific, or it happens at 3:50 a.m. the next day, 28th UK time, we have the lunar eclipse at 4:40 of Aries. So if you have anything between 1 degree and 7 degrees of Aries or Libra, you'll be particularly likely to feel this. Now, this isn't just an ordinary lunar eclipse. They're big enough in themselves because they are like a super big full moon, a super big culmination or period of completion. This is also a total solar eclipse, and the shadow of the eclipse actually falls across South America, the eastern part of the US, and western parts of Europe and Africa, but of course it's mostly happening through hours of daylight, so very few of us will actually see it. Not only is it a total solar eclipse, but it's also a supermoon, and indeed it is the most powerful supermoon of 2015. So with supermoons, I think we know now that they exert a much stronger gravitational and electromagnetic pull on the Earth, on the tides, on the oceans, on the tectonic plates, but also on our consciousness. You know, people feel this very strongly, and this is by far the closest supermoon of the year. So we're really going to feel this very strongly, and particularly because this lunar eclipse, as I say, is happening within 4 days of the autumn equinox, and it's also happening within 4 degrees of that nodal axis. All of those things really emphasize the power of this total supermoon lunar eclipse. Now, the Sun is in Libra, conjunct the North Node, and the Moon is in Aries, conjunct the South Node. So the Moon is always to do with the past, and remember that this is a cycle of culmination or completion or closure. And the South Node is also very much to do with our past, our collective past. It represents habits we've developed, skills we've developed, but ways of being, patterns of relating, Aries, Libra axis. And so we're really being called to leave that behind, to leave all that past behind, and to take a jump towards something very different, with that North Node in Libra, which is all about relating to other people. Now, it's very interesting also that eclipses happen in phases. They run in the same signs over a period of time. So since October 2013, we've had a series of eclipses in Aries and Libra. And this is a total lunar eclipse in Aries. Now, Aries is very much about, I want to be the winner, I want to be the best, I want to be the first, I'm a high achiever, I'm a pioneer, I don't mind going solo, I don't need social approval. So the downside of that is because of its competitiveness, it risks separation. It's very self-focused, it risks separation, as I say. But we're now gradually moving into a phase of Virgo Pisces eclipses, which will continue through to 2017. I mean, we've just had the Virgo eclipse earlier in the month. So Virgo and Pisces that axis is all about seeing the universe as one holistic universe in which we are all interconnected. And Virgo brings in this sense of spiritual service. So we're moving away from that sense of separation towards something which is much more all-inclusive, all-encompassing and all-connected. The other reason this total lunar eclipse supermoon is so powerful is that it directly aspects the supergalactic centre, which is at 2 degrees of Libra. So it has a strongly transformative feel about it. It has a real evolutionary feel about it. And just think back to what seeds you were planting at the eclipses in March and April of this year. What were you doing then? What were you initiating then that is coming to fruition now? Because, as I say, this lunar eclipse is always a cycle of culmination, of completion. It's often the results of our efforts, what we've achieved, but it also very often sheds a light, brings light to something, or reveals something that we weren't fully aware of in order to help us move forwards. So it is an incredibly powerful period overall, and if you know that you have something between 1 and 7 of Aries or Libra, you will really feel this very strongly. If you don't, then really is worth checking out my tutorial videos. The link is appearing above or below me here. Getting a free copy of your birth chart online and just checking what this means for you, because I'm getting very good feedback from people of about how much this is helping them to really determine pattern and meaning in their lives. So just watch for the patterns of what is coming up for you in this total lunar eclipse, strongest supermoon of the year, 4 days away from the equinox, 4 degrees away from the nodal axis, and directly on the supergalactic centre. It's an incredibly powerful evolutionary time for us all. So enjoy this amazing month of September. If you'd like more information about my book or my audiobook, just check out my website, pamgregory.com, or thenextstep.uk.com, and I also put out a 3,000-word free newsletter at the end of each month, so you can see that on the website too. And in the meantime, have a wonderful September, and thanks for listening.